Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Britton's Hangout Hour, episode 49. Ugh. I am here today with, once again, my partner in crime, good buddy, good friend of the channel, Jason Fuhrman. How you doing, man? How you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Yet again. Yet again.
I know. I'm like, oh.
Then he leaves. See what happens here? He just walks. He walks away. He's
No,
like,
I
all
was
right,
closing my door.
I'm out here.
But,
Oh,
yeah, no, I was gonna go with, like a gag at first where I'm like, oh, man, it's been forever since I've had you on my channel.
I know. We just talked about sci-fi recently, right?
Yes, we did. Yeah, I started a new series. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be great. People are gonna watch it, and then it was like crickets in the comments section. I was like, oh, there were some people who
I
liked
think
it.
it. I
So
think it got. I think it got decent views, but yeah, I didn't see any comments.
yeah, but yeah, how you been, man?
Oh, pretty good. It's busy, but yeah,
Oh yeah, it is New Year. So did they have a similar? I know you work at don't you work at like an ad agency or something?
yeah.
Do they have a thing where everything resets in January? Because that happens at my dad's work. He works at a
You mean
call
if
center
you mean
though.
the fiscal year? Yeah, basically. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
how's that been going?
It's crazy. So we have to bill our time hourly, and we have to have codes assigned to jobs we're working on, but inevitably at the beginning of the year, they don't have all their stuff together. So it's kind of annoying in that regard. But it's a busy beginning of the year. Usually it's slow, not this year.
Yeah, no, it's I know what you mean. My dad's always like, oh God, he was always working with. He's always working. Um, well, he also has complaints about his coworkers, but that's all good.
Yeah, it's all good.
Do you have complaints about your coworkers?
Some of them perhaps, but I'd say most people I work with I really like. But yeah,
All
there's
right,
there's a there's always a couple in
we
there
won't
that are.
we won't get too spicy on
No, we
Burton's
won't. We won't
Hangout
name
Hour.
any names. We won't name any names out here.
Yeah, no, I was talking about my aunt on the Christmas episode, and I accidentally dropped her name. I was like, ah, damn it! But I don't think she'll watch
First and
this.
last?
No, just her first name.
Oh well. Yeah.
Well, I've been catching up on like I guess this mental list I've made of the books that Jason recommends. Like I read Tender is the Flesh last
Mm-hmm.
October, and I read Knockemstiff
Mm-hmm.
earlier this month, and I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
all right.
It's a good time. I really enjoyed Knockemstiff.
I
It's
don't know if I found it as magical as you did, but I had a good time with it. I was like, all right,
magically discussed. I think because I knew nothing about it, so I read Devil all the time. So I knew Don Roy Pollock. I knew the kind of fiction he wrote, but I didn't know what this thing was going to be. And so right out of the gate, it just kind of hits you,
oh yeah,
right?
yeah. I
It,
mean,
it hits you right out of the gate, and it really doesn't let up until the very end. And the great thing about it as well that was unexpected, I thought it was just going to be a series of short stories. It kind of is to a degree, but it's also I don't even know what you would call it. I know a lot of times
a,
with TV they call them anthology shows where
a fix up novel.
yeah, well, it's where they're yeah, like it takes place in proximity, right, in
Mm,
a Knockemstiff area, but it's over many decades. I believe it starts in the 40s or something like that, or maybe the 60s, and then goes 20, 30, 40 years or something like that. And it has these. It's not like a movie like Crash where it's about causality as one person affecting someone else's life, but it has these like I don't know these relationships that there might be a side character in one story and then the next story is about them, and so I think that to me was really exciting, and I plan on trying something myself in that regard because I really like that form of storytelling.
yeah, I liked it a lot. I don't want to make it sound like my phone is going off. Um um I remember this was actually my first Pollock that I've read. I had known of him before because the Devil All the Time movie came out a few years ago, and I'm like, oh wow, this could be fun. And I finally got around to Knockemstiff, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty good. And I was kind of surprised this was his first book. From the way he wrote, you would have thought he'd been doing it for years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, this guy's
Well,
good. So that was
yeah.
that was
Fun
the one
fact
thing
is,
that really struck me about that book. But
well, he wrote it late in life. I think he's in his 60s now. He was in his 50s then, and it's a really great example of a person who has lived, and then how they write. Because we get a lot of these young writers out there, like yourself. Like early
yeah, no.
20s, and you haven't had a lot of life experience, and so. Not to say you guys can't tell great stories. There's plenty of writers very young that have told amazing stories, but it was interesting to see a guy who's like lived a full life almost, right? Before he started writing, and he injected all of that experience into his fiction, and it was like some of the most colorful stuff I've ever read. I was like, this is some very rich writing right here going on.
Yeah, I did like the first story because you could feel it. You feel the Oh, what can you say? Because I've been I always had wanted to go to one of those like outdoor theaters when I was younger, and I finally did a few years ago. Because there's one like
Drive-in.
yeah, drive-in. It's not by my house, but it's like it's actually a little bit away. It's by the Norman area where I live out in Oklahoma. And yeah, it was a fun experience. Though we saw the Trolls film, and I missed part of it because I was in line and they were stupid long. That wasn't much of a loss though. It was a dumb film. Good experience though. I was like, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I actually grew up in my review of Knockemstiff. I talk about it briefly, or maybe it's in the read along. But yeah, when I was a kid, I in my town I grew up in, there was a drive-in, and I have great memories of my parents taking me and my friends. He had an old El Camino, and we put sleeping bags in the back of the bed, and we'd all just go back there, get some pizza or something, and just watch the movie. So it was good times. It's unfortunately closed down since then, but yeah, it's fun. And actually, where the town I live in now, there is one. There's still one. It's very it's like a discount theater, but yeah, you can go to the drive-in if you want to around here.
I also like that one. I think it's called Discipline, where the guy is like, it was so stupid. Like his son, like he's like getting all pissed off. He thinks his son's like a roid junkie, and it's yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. I gotta step away for 1 second.
Well, some other good news. But yeah, I did like Knockemstiff. Might actually have a conversation with Jason about that because we do those. We have chats from time to time about books or stuff that we're gonna watch.
Okay,
So, yeah,
sorry about
there
that.
you go. Well,
yeah, good stuff. Love Pollock. The reason why I told you to read Knockemstiff first is because you can see. So I read Devil All the Time first, then I went back to Knockemstiff, and you could see him developing his style in Knockemstiff, and then he carries it over into his other novels. So his other novels, even though it is like one big story, it has the same feeling of Knockemstiff, where it's a big cast of characters, and there's like a common thread, right? There's a character or a group of characters that kind of are leading the path, but then there's all this other stuff going on that affects that storyline. So
yeah, I kind of want to read the Heavenly Table because that character you brought up, the like shithouse guy, what is it he calls himself? The inspector.
He's like the
sanitation inspector. That's right.
Sanitation
Yeah,
inspector.
the Big Johnson. Yeah, I want to.
Yeah,
I want to know about that. For some reason.
That's what I'm saying. That's the one thing I think about Donald Roy Pollock that I don't think I've ever witnessed in any other writer is the care he puts into his side characters. So it's almost like you can definitely identify the protagonists of his novels. But the side characters have their own. They feel like they've lived their own lives. They're not just sort of there to serve the plot, but they could have their own stories if they wanted to.
Yeah,
and they often do.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's how you know you got good characters, or at least I think so. You're always going on about characters in your reviews.
Well, it's important because
We even had a whole conversation about the subject.
yeah, we did. I mean, to me, it's the glue of the story. Like, granted, you can have a great plot, and maybe your characters are kind of weak. Let's take like the Da Vinci Code or something. Not to say it's a great plot, but it was an interesting plot. I remember
Yeah.
reading that years ago,
Yeah, I'll
and
give him
like
that.
I was sucked in. I was like, ooh, this is interesting because of the subject matter and because of just the way it constructed the plot. Character, however, pretty lame. So, but that's really fucking hard to do, to make a plot where you have a boring character engaging versus the other way around. I feel like most movies with great characters, the plots are kind of, they can be great or they can be okay, but the character is really what's kind of keeping everything together.
Well, yeah, I would agree with you. You know, I was
Yeah.
gonna ask you this the other day, kind of going back to our character conversation, because I was watching True Detective season 1 again. Because believe it or not, it's been a whopping 10 years since that's come out now. It's
Crazy.
crazy. Um, we were talking a lot about irony in that conversation, and I was kind of thinking when I was because like ever since I've had that conversation, I've kind of thought about that. Like when I watch something, I'm like, okay, like what's the irony with this character? Like what do you think the irony with like Rust is? Like Rust and Cole.
The irony with Rust and Cole. It's kind of hard to say if there is irony with him in particular, but I feel like what worked well is the buddy cop aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rust in isolation would probably
Sorry,
be
I
pretty
tend to I
exhausting.
like to think about characters in isolation. You were kind of struggling with that in our
Well,
chat a little bit.
because I don't think it's necessarily about the character in isolation, because the character lives in a world that is populated by other characters, presumably.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it's how they relate to each other that is really the magic, and less about how they are in a void, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Rust Cole, like he had a troubled past. He was kind of philosophically minded. He slept on a mattress on the floor in an apartment. He was just kind of a weird guy. But then you had his partner, who was the normal guy, and so that's what was great, is you had this guy who was kind of taking
who had
himself
his
very
whole who had
seriously,
his whole
waxing,
other set of
yeah,
issues.
yeah, waxing poetic, right, all the time. And then the hilarious part was when what is, I can't even remember Woody Harrelson's character's name. What is it?
Marty is his name.
Marty. That's right. So Marty would just be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And that was kind of for us. It was the levity, and that to me was the beauty of True Detective. It wasn't so much that Marty was great by himself or Rust was, but it was
Well,
how they are.
no,
And I think,
no, no.
yeah,
It's just that's sometimes where my brain goes when I think about great characters. But yeah,
yeah,
they
for sure.
also it worked because like I think like I think McConaughey and like Woody are friends in real life, like really good
They are.
friends, and
Yeah,
you could
they
see
are.
like they have a lot of chemistry together.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I
They
was watching it again. One of my favorite like funny bits when they're going back and forth is when when Russ first explains what he thinks, and he's like, "All right, I want you to chill the fuck out. Don't even mention any of that bullshit you just told me when you get to my family tonight." And he's like, "Come on, dude, I'm not crazy. I'm not gonna do
Yeah,
that."
yeah. And that's what's great about it. That's what's great about it. Whereas if you're watching a show where Rust is driving in a car, kind of like there's like a internal monologue going, but we hear it, it might be intriguing, but it would not have the same power. And I think Nick Pizzolatto, when he was writing these characters, he knew it's two people, right? How can I have these two people play off each other? Whereas if you have a film like Indiana Jones, where you have a main protagonist,
Mm.
you inject all of that interest into him for the most part. But
Well,
when you
he
know
has
you're
his friends. He has his side
he
characters.
does, but this show is about Marty and Russ together and their differences.
You were
That's
kind of
what it
getting out
is.
of focus there for a moment,
Oh, I was blurring
a little
my
bit.
camera, maybe.
Yeah, no. Um, but yeah, no, some good stuff. I enjoyed a
Yeah.
lot. I also watched season 3 again because I'm like, I know you were kind of on it, but I think it's pretty underrated. I mean, a lot of people compare it to 1, and I mean, 1 is easily the best. Still, I'm not gonna dispute that, but I liked 3. I thought 3
No, it
was
was fine.
it was good.
Yeah, it felt kind of like
A little slow
hey,
in parts.
we did season 1, we did season 2. Holy shit, what happened? Let's try to go back to the same formula in season 3. And it was decent, but you could tell they were just trying to salvage to the best of their ability the magic that season 1 captured. And while it wasn't perfect, it was, it was okay. It was decent. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Season
Um,
4, however,
have you seen it?
ooh, yeah, I've watched the first episode. It is not True Detective. It is a random detective show with the name True Detective.
Yeah,
So,
I was thinking about watching season 4, see what they were gonna do. I'll admit I was kind of hesitant because I felt kind of icky that they were continuing on without Pizzolatto. But Jodie Foster's a good actress. Also, Christopher Eccleston's in it, so I like Christopher Eccleston.
yeah, it's not about that. It's if you watch the first, everything you need to know
Also,
is in the
I heard it
first
was influenced
episode.
by The Thing. The Thing's my favorite horror film of all time, so I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, okay,
but I
maybe
but
I'll
I
give
don't
it a
I don't
shot.
want I don't want that in True Detective. I don't want a supernatural movie or horror movie in True Detective. Like I just don't want that.
Well, like, what do you
And
make of
it
like the cosmic horror bits of the first season? Then
yeah, I mean that's okay because it was like is it real? Is it not real? Like what's going on here? And it wasn't like dominating the whole thing.
well,
Whereas in season 4, right out the fucking gate, it's like okay, this is supernatural shit that's going on here. Like they're not trying to creatively weave it into a narrative to make it kind of ambiguous. Like, is this really happening, or is this all in his head, or what's going on? Yeah, it's a. I wish it would have been good, but it's. I gave it one episode, and I'm like, nah, this is not it. I'm done.
I was thinking about watching it soon
Yeah,
because my
try it out.
work. I'll try it out and see how it is. Um, and I mean, like, I'm not against it. Again, I just felt kind of weird because Pizzolatto isn't on there anymore. It's like if you
I don't
took.
even know how much involvement he had in season 3 either, because I know there was additional writers in season 3, if I remember correctly.
I think
So
he wrote
it's
most of it,
really
if I remember right.
maybe.
I think he did.
Yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Nick Pizzolatto needs to be involved. I feel like for it to be True Detective, and it's not. I mean, maybe it's an okay random detective show in the icy north, but with supernatural elements. But it's not True Detective, not at all, not even long shot.
So I gotta ask, have you actually read The King in Yellow, the book that
I
like
tried reading it a long time ago because of because of True
was a
Detective,
True Detective?
but it didn't capture me in the same way as it was depicted in the show, or well hinted at or referred to.
I'm trying to get Carol to watch True Detective to see what he gets out of see what he would get out of it. Which is kind of which is even I've been trying to get him to do it because he I thought he had seen it because he's kind of like Rust in some ways, but
Yeah.
he's like, no, I haven't seen it. I'm like, oh, dude. And I mean, I don't know what he would make of it because, like, I think if you watch True Detective, it becomes clear, like, Pizzolatto's like, this isn't a good way to live. Well, being,
Yeah.
pessimistic and sad all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, that was the beauty of the show is we had a quote unquote normal guy paired up with this guy, and it was the contrast that made it special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. They kind of brought that back in season 3 a little bit, but again, it wasn't as good as the first one.
I'd honestly wish Nick Pizzolatto would just write more books.
Yeah, me too. I read Galveston last year, which I was telling you about, and it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I liked
Yeah,
it a lot.
it's a good book.
I wish I
You could.
had more things to say in my video. It was a little shorter than some of my reviews I usually do, but I liked it. I have it over here. I don't want to pull it out at the moment, but it was good. Yeah, and I could definitely. I remember you said to me when I read it, you were like, you can definitely see where he got some of those ideas for True Detective, and I could see
Yep.
that because
The little remember the
Yeah, the
tin can?
little beer can soldiers. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, I know what you're doing there. I see what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah. No, it's cool when you experience a writer's work over time to see how, like I was saying with Donald Ray Pollock, how once you read Knockemstiff and then you go to the Devil, you're like, oh, I see him developing. I see him toying around with these methods, of constructing stories, and it's kind of neat. And so, like, yeah, when you pick up little things like the little tin can men from Galveston, and you see in True Detective, it was the inverse for me, of course, but yeah, it's neat. It's kind of like a neat little Easter egg.
Also, the guy's name Roy Cady, Rustin Cole, RC, and it's another
There you
little
go.
thing I caught. Thought
There
that
you
was
go.
neat. No
Yeah.
Carcosa or time is a flat circle stuff.
Yeah.
Um, no, but it made me want to pick up. Made me want to pick up the King in Yellow, see what that's about. Though I tried
I
listening
do.
to it on like there's this guy called Ian Gordon. He reads old like horror shorts. Like he's read some Lovecraft and Poe and like Ambrose Bierce. I tried listening to King in Yellow. I just I don't know if it's just me, but aside from the occasion, not an audiobook guy. I can't like my. It's not like I'm not against it. It's just I get distracted really easily. I like
Same.
I'm having the same thing right now. I'm reading an ebook version of um this book called Thrice that I got from this guy named Andrew D. Meredith who wrote it. I'm also kind of having a hard time with. It's a good book. It's just kind of I'm just having a hard time because I keep getting distracted by other things.
Hmm. Because it's on your phone. Is that how you're reading it?
Yeah, it's on my phone.
Yeah. So you swipe over to Instagram or YouTube or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Check your stats.
Well, not like that. But it's more just like weird. I'm like, oh, I'm reading it on my phone. I mean, I've done it before, but I mean, I like holding my books. I guess is what I'm saying.
I gotcha. I mean, there is something neat about. I enjoy paper books as well, but I find them just so inconvenient.
Well,
Based
yeah,
on
you
my
use Kindle,
lifestyle.
which I was
I
I was
use
thinking
Kindle. Yeah.
reading Thrice right now. I'm like, man, I'm kind of glad I didn't get a Kindle this Christmas. I was, man,
Well,
I don't know when I was gonna
yeah.
get. I don't know how if I was gonna get used to that. Maybe
What I
someday.
love about it, yeah, what I love about it is, inevitably I'll find myself in a different place, right? So maybe my Kindle's at home. Maybe I'm somewhere where I have my phone. It automatically syncs the book to my phone in the Kindle app, and I just continue. So that's what I get out of it. Where when you have one copy of something,
Can't just
you
mark
have
it
to
up.
like, you have to like, it's like a ritual where like I'm reading this right now, right here. I need a light. I need a comfortable spot, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas with ebooks,
You
I
can just
find
be
it
anywhere.
easier for me to, yeah, you can read anywhere pretty much because we all have our phones with us all the time now. So
Yeah,
that's
pretty
kind of
much.
why I enjoy it. Yeah.
Gotta love
And also,
technology.
if you buy the audiobook, the only time I really ever listen to audiobooks is when I'm driving because that's the only time that I feel like I can focus on it because driving is kind of a, mindless experience when you've done it for so long.
Mm.
Um, it syncs to the Kindle book.
Oh wow,
So
that's cool.
you could even like it's cool because if you have it on your phone, you can see the words highlight as the narrator speaks them, which is pretty neat.
I will say I do really enjoy the First Law audiobooks from Stephen Pacey.
Hmm.
I don't know why, but those out of all the audiobooks I've tried, like those, well, listening to the original trilogy anyway by him is really I don't know. He does it very well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm really picky with narrators. It sucks because sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'll pick the audiobook up because of whatever reason, and then it's, oh, I don't really like their voice. God damn it! I guess I'm gonna have to read this one. Yeah,
Also
or it's the
listen
performance
to
or something.
also listen to Roger Clark, who was Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2. Also a
Mm,
very good audiobook narrator.
nice,
Um,
nice.
but aside from that, I don't. It's kind of funny. I had a guy on here. His name's Ben from Genghis Khan. It's actually a few months ago now. But yeah, he listens to audiobooks a lot. And I'm just like, I don't. I mean, I'm not against him. I just get distracted. Like I said, I just get distracted really easily.
Yeah, I worked with a guy who listened to the entire Dune series while at work, while working, and I'm like,
Wow.
how do you do that, man? He's like, well, I miss stuff, but then what he would do is listen to them over and over and over again. So he probably listened to all of the Dune books probably 3 times. And so by the time he got to the end of the third one, he had it pretty well, in his head. But, and I guess if you're sitting there working anyway, why not, I mean, what else are you going to do? Listen to music, I guess.
Could you do that while you were sitting
No,
around?
no, 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 no. I when I'm working, even if it's like a visual task, like graphic design or something, or video editing, it's like I I can't multitask in that regard because I'm so focused on this task. Whereas, like I said, driving or walking outside or something like that, I can because I'm not immersed in that activity, even though I probably should be, right? Driving, especially. But, you know.
Don't want to get fired.
Well, I don't want to get in a car accident.
That's true. That's also true. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, no. It's kind of I guess watching True Detective again has kind of tickled my brain for more cosmic horror content. And I thought about it. I'm like, cosmic horror and noir should be like together more because they fit quite nicely together. At least I think so.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe you're onto something. Maybe that'll be the next thing you write.
Maybe we'll see. I'm working on a western right now because I'm like, all right, I wrote this fantasy thing. I want to do something else because like I didn't want to get stuck doing the same thing because like I'll just get burned out.
Yep.
I'm sure you felt similarly.
Oh yeah,
You're writing a trilogy at the moment.
Yeah,
But that's been fun.
I genre hop all the time. Like I wrote this Southern Gothic story to submit to be considered for an anthology, and that got my wheels spinning or turning, and I'm like, hey, I could create kind of a Knockemstiff-esque vibe from this. And so now my brain's in that realm, and I've sort of mentally outlined numerous stories. So I might chase that because I find that I was struggling with the sequel to the song, Song for the End of the World, and it wasn't like feeling it. And I feel passionate about this. And so I'm like, you know what, maybe I'll shift gears and go over there. But what I did recently is write a sci-fi story. So I submitted and got rejected.
Oh
I submitted
no!
to a literary mag, Clark's World. It's a science fiction
Oh
literary
wow,
mag.
you were really going for it, huh?
Well, I was like, you know what? Because I was talking to somebody on my Discord server who always submits short stories. And I said, fuck it, I'm gonna try this. So I wrote one to spec, I did not. It's not like I had a story that I already had and I submitted it. Worked on that for a bit and submitted it. So now it's an Asimov's magazine, submitted to that. So I'm gonna kind of like throw it around and see like if it ever gets picked up, and if not, I'll just probably release it on my own at some point. And that's obviously a science fiction story.
So is it because of our sci-fi conversation that got you revved up to write about it, or did you do this earlier?
Well, I was having this conversation earlier, and then I think the sci-fi conversation reminded me like, oh yeah, I should totally do that. And then so I finally did it. But I feel like so many people when they start writing, they're so geared to, hey, I want to write a fantasy epic or whatever. Like, start small, man. Like, master the short story. Like, I can't stress enough how much value I've got out of when I did that 2-year project where I was writing a short story a week. Oh my God. Like, I learned so much doing that. And it's really important to get the fundamentals under your belt before you try to tackle like 100,000 word novel or something.
Yeah, I actually hand wrote some short stories when I was in high school. So that was fun. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do this. And I ended up writing I call it a novel for lack of a better word. It was really bad. I'm glad no one can see that anymore. Cause
Do you still have it?
Oh, I probably do somewhere in my computer, but I haven't seen it in a long time.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's a weird thing. It works. I will say I did write A Plague of Nightmares, which I feel a lot better about. Though I don't think I found my voice yet, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense for sure. Yeah, it takes time.
Have you found your voice, Jason?
I think so. Like granted, it develops, but I've noticed that I lean into certain patterns of narrative. Like like the prose, definitely. Um, and I have to kind of resist and make sure that I'm writing in the character's voice and not my own voice. Because that's really important to me that I feel like a lot of people don't quite grasp how important that is.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I sometimes catch myself like not copying, but definitely like kind of mimicking other writers I enjoy. Cause like
Yeah, same.
I was catching myself when I wrote A Plague of Nightmares. I'm like, this is a little Abercrombie.
Yeah. I
So
remember when I read you've heard of Blake Crouch, right?
yeah, yeah.
When I first read might have been his book Run or the Wayward Pine stuff. He's a thriller writer, and I caught myself right after I read those because I loved his writing style, writing a lot of fragments because he writes in a very fragmented way, which is very common in the thriller genre. But yeah, he taught me about fragments, and obviously I try not to overuse them all the time now. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, everything we read, we're learning from.
Well,
That's what's great about
I
reading.
mean, I've been really bad at keeping up with sci-fi, but I guess I'm reading a kind of I don't know if it's really sci-fi, but I'm gonna read Kindred this next month, hopefully. I've heard of Octavia. You know how I was mentioning in our sci-fi chat that
Hmm.
that yeah, I wanted to read like Le Guin and Zelazny. Yeah, Octavia Butler is another one of those writers I've wanted to try for a long time, and I've heard Kindred's a fantastic book, so I'm hoping I enjoy it. I've heard it'll be a bit disturbing because it's about slavery, so I can imagine that wasn't a fun time. I imagine it won't be a fun
No.
time. I mean, I have seen 12 Years a Slave. It's not a not fun, not fun.
I've not read Octavia Butler. I think I tried once and stopped for whatever reason. But yeah, like Gwen, I'm making definitely a big effort coming up to read more science fiction because I feel like for whatever reason that genre has fallen to the wayside a bit for me in recent
Yeah, same here. I
times.
want to. I
So
want to read more
yeah,
sci-fi. That was kind of
yeah.
why I started the State of Science Fiction because I wanted to, like, get the gears going again.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I learned of a book that it was funny. I already knew about it, but I watched Thomas's review on SSF 180,
oh yeah,
and
yeah. Is it
it's
the one, the
it's called
Ballengrid one that he just
no
did
no no it's
recently?
called the Strange or something like that, or
Yeah. I saw
Stranger.
that one.
Yeah, yeah. And so I checked it out. I listened to his review. I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool. He was talking about Ray Bradbury all the time, a lot. I said it feels very Ray Bradbury esque, and so I added that to my list. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read this one very soon because it sounds cool. Sounds like my kind of sci-fi. I
Yeah.
also plan to read Neuromancer. I think
Oh
sooner than
boy. Yeah.
later.
I've heard
I've
some.
owned that for a really long
I've
time.
heard some things about that one.
Yeah, I've read William Gibson a couple of books. I've read a couple of his books,
Oh wait,
and
no, is
they're
Neuromancer Gibson or is it No, Snow
yeah.
Crash is Stevenson.
Oh, Neil Stevenson. I've read Snow Crash.
What'd
I
you
enjoyed
think of
it.
Snow Crash?
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, it was decent. I read it years ago, but yeah,
So, Jason, what do you think that the guy is literally called hero protagonist?
Hero. Well, it makes sense when you live in a VR world, right?
No, I
When
mean
everybody.
no, I just think that's funny. I'm not
Oh
trying to
yeah.
like roast it. I just think that's funny.
No. Yeah. But it's HIRO
I know, yeah.
protagonist. No, it's great. It's funny because when you read that book now, you're like, oh, this is like VR stuff and avatars and all that. But you got to look when the publication date was. You're like, holy shit, this was way ahead of its time. That's what's so
Also,
impressive about it.
also from like I've kind of read like a little bit of a sample of it, and I'm like, oh, so this is where Ready Player One got some of its ideas from.
Well,
Hmm.
not just Ready Player One, but so many properties out there.
But yeah, Neuromancer's Gibson. That's right. I haven't.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm not. I think I may have mentioned this in the State of Science Fiction chat, but not a fan of cyberpunk. Not, I don't hate it. There's some stuff I
I
enjoy. Like Transmetropolitan is one of my favorite comics of all time. That's technically a cyberpunk story, but generally not a cyberpunk guy.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. It's funny. I like the idea of cyberpunk, but then when
Mm-hmm.
I jump in the genre, like when I was trying to play Cyberpunk 2077, and I played some TTRPGs that are cyberpunk, and it's like, I don't know if this is my thing.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
And you know me, I'm the noir nut. You think that would like tickle my pickle a little bit, and it's like I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. I think for me, what gets tiresome is the like quote unquote punk mentality and the attitude and the
Yeah,
philosophy. You just like start rolling your
you're
eyes
just a
after a while. And it's like
disgruntled old man by this
down,
point.
down with the man, down with the man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, it's like, come on, get over it, man. It's like, get
You're in
over
the
it.
disgruntled old man phase where you're just like, yeah, stop it.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
But
Get
yeah,
off
no,
my synthetic lawn.
yeah, no, it's really weird. Even like you watched Love, Death, and Robots.
Um, yes. I don't think I watched all of them because I couldn't stand it. But yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple cyberpunk episodes, and I was like, eh. Well, actually, that first episode was cyberpunky, and I actually liked that one.
Was
The
that the
one
one where there was the they
the
were like
fighting ring.
there yeah, that one. I mean, that was kind of I felt like that series was style over substance far too much. I was hoping there would be an actual good story in there somewhere,
Have you
and
seen the
I
Have you
couldn't
seen the
find
one
one.
David Fincher did?
What was the title?
Oh damn it, I can't
Or what
think of
was
it
it
at the
about?
moment.
Is it a
It's the one
later
about
season?
the whaling ship, or it's basically a whaling ship. They don't.
Maybe I didn't
That was
see that
fantastic.
one. I'll have to check that one out.
At least I
But
thought so.
yeah, yeah, beautiful filmmaking in all of them, but
Though
there was no like soul to many of them, so I
my
just
favorite
got
was
bored.
probably the one with the robots walking around, after Earth has been destroyed, and they're like, oh yeah, what's this, and they're all look. I really
I
like that one,
I did watch that one. I remember that one. Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, I think that was, and I'm like, I'm curious. I'm like, you think like I forgot to mention Ted Chiang because I was like,
You
yeah, all right.
did.
But yeah, whatever. I probably wouldn't have said too much because I was like, I liked it. I wasn't blown away by it, but I liked it. There were some stories I liked more than
I
others.
think yeah, I think his ideas are better than his ability to tell a story, if
Mm,
that makes sense. You know,
mm.
like he's got some fantastic ideas, but as a narrative, with the exception of Story of Your Life, it was really difficult for me to get invested. And even with Story of Your Life, there were some parts where I was like, eh. Um, so you can tell he's far more interested in the ideas, which is fine. I mean, he's got amazing, crazy notoriety for what he's written. But yeah, I don't know. It'd be fantastic if he worked with somebody who is a great writer and he like kind of directed it from like a conceptual standpoint. I would love to see that.
Might try Exhalation, see how that goes.
I have it too.
But
I've heard it's better.
but there was one of the stories where the idea sounded really similar to Hell is the Absence of God. I'm like, well, he already did it in Hell is the Absence of God. Like, it feels like he was treading water there. But
Yeah,
I haven't read it yet, so maybe someday I'll try it out.
it's pretty impressive how a guy can write two collections of short stories and make a career out of it.
Yeah, I have a hard time thinking in like short stories. I've thought about doing it for my character from A Plague of Nightmares, but I haven't gotten around and done it yet.
It's
Haven't
just a
found the
scene.
time.
That's all a short story really needs to be, is a scene.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
That's why I encourage people to write short stories, because it really teaches you how to write a scene. And it's going to just make your scenes and your chapters and your longer work better, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean also I just have kind of bad imposter syndrome. I think of like
Everybody does. Everybody does.
Bradbury and
Well,
Poe, and I'm like, I don't think I could like like stretch to those guys. I don't think I could. Or I mean, I know we probably shouldn't try to go for that, but we shouldn't try
Well,
to aim so high. But
yeah, I wish I remembered, and maybe it's Sean Quinn from StoryGrid, but when I always feel like I have imposter syndrome, I remember this quote, and it's nobody can write the story like you can.
yeah, I've heard
Does that make
friends of
sense?
mine
You've heard
tell
that?
me a
Yeah.
similar thing
Yeah.
for
So
writers.
I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Like I might not write it like Poe or like Lovecraft or Hemingway or Cormac McCarthy or any of those guys, but I'll write it like me,
But you
and
don't
it's
even
going to be
like
unique in that
Hemingway.
way.
What are you talking about?
I'm just throwing out author
Okay.
names. I'm not
Okay.
throwing out my most respected authors.
I might actually get off my ass and try Hummingbird Salamander. See how that is. Seems a little more mainstreamy than some of his other
It
work,
is.
but I'll see when I get there.
It's a little more on the nose than his other work. It's like not really sci-fi either. It's weird.
I am looking forward. I was watching one of my friend's videos today, and he was talking about like Insta buy authors. I'm like, yeah, Vandermeer's on there for me anyway.
Yeah, I'd say for me, Vandermeer's on there. Who else? Who else?
Pollock would Pollock be on there?
Oh yeah, Pollock's total instant buy. Cormac McCarthy, granted, there's no more books coming from him, but he's instant buy. Um, who else? Ian Reed for me, instant
Oh
buy.
yeah. I forgot about him.
I really enjoy Ian Reed's work immensely. He's a super talented writer that doesn't get enough credit, I feel like.
Yeah, I still need to read like I'm thinking of ending things because, as I noted before, my favorite screenwriter, Charlie Kaufman, did an adaptation of one of his books, and I'm like, you know what? I want to see what that book's. I want to see what the fuss is about.
And you know what?
He's on my one day list.
Okay, good. His books are short. They're great. They're easy to read. But speaking of Charlie Kaufman, he's also adapting a novel into another film that I've read, but another book that I've read, The Memory Police.
Oh yeah,
So
I
that
forgot
should
about
be
that. Yeah, you
be
liked
that
that
should
one,
be
didn't you?
interesting. I did enjoy that one quite a bit. Yeah,
Isn't that the like 1984-ish one?
kinda. Yeah,
And
like
wasn't that the
1984
Japanese one,
light.
or is that another one I'm
Yeah.
thinking of?
No, you're right. Japanese. Yeah,
I
that's
guess he's
good.
been on the adaptation train recently.
Yeah.
um, man, but yeah, I still need to see that one. Dang it, Senegdoche, New York, or something like that.
Oh, I've seen that. That was a challenging watch. Yeah,
But yeah, I've heard it's
it
really
was.
trippy.
Yeah, it's kind of it's it's decent, but it's like yeah, it's not. I guess I was never transfixed while I was watching it. It was kind of like it felt like work a little bit.
Yeah, he
Like I was
also wrote
working.
a novel, and I'm like, and it's like looking at me, and it's like he's like begging me to. He's like, take it. And I haven't listened to it yet.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah, no, it's though it does seem a little Woody Allen-y in terms of like I'll admit I'm not a fan of the like neurotic Jew trope too much. But that said, I loved Midnight in Paris though. I think that's a fantastic movie. Um, I haven't seen his a lot of his other ones because again I'm not really a fan of the like I said neurotic Jew trope. I don't like it very much.
Yeah,
It's just like
I felt with I'm thinking of ending things. It leaned into humor a little bit more. Like I feel like the book is very serious, whereas the film, like, granted, it's serious in a lot of ways. It kind of was like a little zany here and there, but that's why I'm curious to see how he handles the Memory Police. Because again, another very serious story. It's not goofy at all. Um, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, that would be an interesting one. I actually heard they were making a Bourne TV show a while back. I'm like, I think you could make that into a movie if you wanted to, but yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's not
I know.
like
I heard.
Annihilation where it's like, well,
Yeah, I heard Swan Song by McCam is being adapted into a TV show
Yeah,
as
I guess
well.
that makes sense. I need to read him. I want to try him at some point. I know you really liked Boy's Life.
Oh man, it's great.
It
Good
it,
stuff.
it tickled you. It tickled you.
It tickled me. Yeah, it tickled me. It has a heavy hit of nostalgia tickling.
Yeah, I've heard that one's really good. Like that, Swan Song, and his Matthew Corbett series, I've heard are really good.
Oh, those are the like colonial ones or
Yeah.
something, right? Yeah. I
The
saw one of those on sale and I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm into the mood for colonial stuff from
Well,
McCammon,
I
but
love that
yeah.
part of it. Well, I mean, if you already gathered from A Plague of Nightmares,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely picking that up whenever I
You
get
love
around to it.
the triangle hats and the wigs and all that
I
and the
like
like
that stuff.
little pants to your knees and the
Love the Patriot and Barry
boot
Lyndon.
buckles.
Even though the
Yeah.
Patriot is not at all historically authentic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's one of those films I
I
grew
think
up with. I don't care. I love that movie.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
I know it's
I'm fine
silly.
with the period, the time period, as long as the story's great. But if it leans too much into the time period and the story is kind of, then it's rough for me. But yeah, if the story is written well, like I'll check out any film.
Yeah, the other day I was thinking, I'm like, man, this score for the Patriot is very John Williams-y. Look it up. It was John Williams who did the score
There
of
you
that
go.
movie.
There you go.
I was like, damn. You just played yourself.
Yeah, speaking of older film scores, it's funny when you watch older movies, you can see how dominant the music was.
Oh yeah.
Versus now, there's a lot of breathing room where there's a lot of no music.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. It's kind of like laugh tracks, in
Mm-hmm.
comedy shows. Like you go back and you watch Seinfeld and you're like, what? How did I forget this laugh track? It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, I for some reason I kind of suspected you would like something like Seinfeld.
Well, I mean, I was a kid in that era. Like, it's, I think a lot of it's genuinely pretty well written for
Yeah,
comedy.
I mean,
Like, it's
yeah,
pretty clever stuff.
yeah. My parents love Seinfeld. I've
Yeah.
never. I was more of a Friends guy.
Ooh, yeah, Friends.
Yeah. It's funny, all right. It's fun, or I think it is anyway. I know there's some people who might be more like, yeah, but
Yeah,
good shit.
I think it really depends on the era. Like if you grew up in a time when this show was out, then you're probably going to be more into it. Like that's like with me with Seinfeld.
Or like, I can see you liking something like Louis. Did you ever watch that about Louis C.K.?
Louis?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, brilliant. Loved it.
I know you
Loved it.
freaking love.
Oh my
Of
god.
course you
I
like
Louis
that.
Louis C.K. is like he's my favorite comedian by far.
Oh yeah, he's no. It's funny. I'm like, I bet Jason liked Louis. I'm
Yeah,
telling you
because
right
it
now.
was it was funny, but it was like sad and dark at times, and real. Like it wasn't like Big Bang Theory or some bullshit like that where it's just playing to the mainstream audience. It was, yeah, it was great. It's unfortunate he had to have the indiscretion and kind of screw his career, but I know he's coming. I know he's back now. So
Yeah, he's good. He's good. There was another one I watched. Even though I'm not a big Ricky Gervais fan, he did this show. I think it was called Life. I like that a lot.
Life.
Or it was on like Netflix. Maybe Life isn't the name of it, but I liked it. It was about like his.
Oh, Ricky Gervais. It's Afterlife, right? That one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The one where his wife dies and he's like constantly thinking about killing himself. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
it's
Ricky
good.
Gervais too. Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, some. You like Louis? I just think that's funny. Yeah, I
Why is
watched.
that funny?
No,
I even
it's
bought
just
all of his self-produced TV show called Horace and Pete. You ever hear about that?
I've heard of that. I haven't watched it.
I bought all of it, so it was cool. He was releasing it on his website episode by episode, and you just pay like $5 or whatever it was, or $2, and you get the episode. And he was all self-funded, so he was all his own money, and Yeah, it was good. It
But
was a
yeah,
cool show.
I like Louis. It's a good show. I like the bit when he meets Robin Williams at the dude's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Some good stuff.
Yeah, Lou's great.
Yeah. I've been really bad at keeping up with like shows and movies and stuff. Like you got me to watch Scavenger's Reign a few months back, which I liked. I thought that was a really interesting show.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I liked it too.
Probably the most unique animated show I've seen in a long time. It's like Moebius a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys should like adapt a Moebius prop. Like they should like fuck Taika Waititi doing the ankle. They should do the ankle.
Yeah,
Did you ever
I
read
agree.
the
I
ankle?
mean, no, I haven't. I've heard about it, but never read it.
Yeah, same. I've seen some of the artwork, and it's Moebius, so pretty it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I love his art. It's great.
Yeah, no, some good stuff. I enjoy Moebius a lot.
Yeah, I had a poster that it was an Iron Man poster that he drew. And I didn't know it was Mobius at all, but I was really drawn to the artwork. It was weird. It was like the Iron Man suit, but like kind of organic. You could see like the musculature. It wasn't like just, hey, here's robot plates on your arms and stuff. And I remember seeing that poster in a comic book store. I'm like, oh, I need to have that. And I had it on my wall for many years. And it wasn't until like later I'm like, oh, that's Mobius. Oh shit, that's why I like his style so much.
Yeah, I saw a video you did. Actually, I think it was your hot takes video where you were talking about Mike Mignola and Todd
Oh
McFarlane.
yeah, and Todd McFarlane. Yeah,
Yeah, I was kind of like, oh, well, Todd McFarlane, huh? And then I'm like, oh yeah, you probably grew up in that era, didn't you?
I
So
did. I
that
remember
makes sense.
Torment was a big deal when it came out, and I was
Well, at
right
least it
there.
wasn't Rob Liefeld. That's all I'll
No,
say.
no. I remember him with. Yeah, I have very vivid memories of when Image Comics launched with McFarlane, Sam Keith, Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld. Got another guy who did Shadow Hawk, I think the character was. Also Dale Keown with Pitt. But yeah, I remember that. It was such a cool time in comics, man. I haven't. There hasn't been something like that since.
Yeah, I
It's
grew up
crazy.
as Image kind of gained new life as like the one where basically if you don't want to do any Marvel DC comics, you can just come over here and tell your own stories. I grew up in
Hmm.
that era, so
Yeah,
yeah,
that's kind of what they migrated to. Yeah.
I'm kind of baffled by all the people who are bitching about comics nowadays. I'm like, guys, we're in a new fucking golden age here. Like, that you can tell whatever stories you want. You don't have to. And you're just like sitting here and complaining about Marvel and DC. Go read fucking Image or something. I don't. What do you want me to say?
Yeah, I don't read superhero stuff at all anymore.
I don't know. I know. Yeah.
I feel like that part of my life has passed me by.
Yeah, I tend to be more picky about what superhero comics I read. I mostly stick to the. Well, I don't want to say independent because it's not like Arkham where it's just bizarre. Um, but definitely, I do read a lot of creator-owned stuff nowadays. Unless there's writers I enjoy who write like Marvel and DC. Like I like Jeff Lemire a lot and Jason Aaron. If they're doing like big two stuff, I'll read that. So I
Nice.
I follow the writers more. Or like if
Mm.
Brubaker for some reason decided to do Marvel or DC again, he's got a good deal at Image though, so I bet he's not gonna be doing that anytime soon.
Yeah, true.
I actually got their new comic, Where the Body Was. I haven't read it yet. Um, yeah, I collect those. Uh,
Nice.
yeah. Also caught up with Saga last year, and yeah, good stuff.
Good stuff and keeps going. It's shocking how well they can keep creating this story, make it
Yeah,
engaging.
I was thinking about like True Detective and like noir and cosmic horror. I'm like,
Hmm.
Laird Barron kind of was doing that with his Coleridge books. I've only covered the first one on my channel because the other two I'm not really sure what to make of them. But good stuff. So what have you been doing recently? Like, what have you been reading and consuming and whatnot?
What am I reading right now? I'm reading a book called Grotesquerie by
Is it Thomas Ligotti?
no, close. God, what's his name? Let me get it for you. It's something. It's Gavin something or something Gavin. Let me see. Yeah, I'm reading that right now. I also read This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno. I just finished that.
Oh yeah, I've seen that around. It's in the
Yeah.
same format as Jeff Vandermeer's stuff. So I'm because again maybe my latent calling for if writing doesn't pan out is graphic design because I really like covers for books and stuff.
Yeah, covers are great. So I read that book.
What'd you think
I'm
of
reading
that?
this book. Yeah, it was decent. It had a great kind of start and great middle, and then it kind of, I don't know, the end kind of didn't work for me. I kind of devolved into sort of just what you'd expect horror tropes, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate because it felt like it was trying to explore some different things. But overall, I enjoyed it. I'm gonna do a review on it, and then Grotesquerie is pretty decent. Like a lot of short story collections, it's hit and miss. There's some good ones, and there's some why is that in here ones. Not that they're bad, but
Are you sure that's not Ligotti? It sounds like, or no, I think that's Grim Scribe. I'm thinking
no,
of
this is Richard Gavin.
Richard
So that
Gavin.
is the Richard Gavin. So I was actually a viewer of mine. I think he's on my Discord server too. He kept bugging me because I think it came off my John Langan, the Fisherman review, because
Mm.
I was like complaining like I rarely read anybody who kind of captures Lovecraft's just atmospheric, ability, and he named Richard Gavin as well as Ligotti, of course. I think he's the other one who everyone says is like, yeah, if you kind of want the feeling of Lovecraft, Ligotti is your guy.
Yeah, I've heard Ligotti is very good. I'll admit I did read the well, I'll admit I read one story from the Penguin edition that the Penguin put out that with the Jeff Vandermeer introduction, as a matter of fact. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, got it from my library. And then it wasn't necessarily was bad. It was just I had kind of lost motivation to read it, and I'm like, I'll save this for later. But I read one story in there, and I really enjoyed it. So heard
Yeah.
it was more of a grounded story though. So I haven't read
hmm
like his like weirder Lovecraftian stuff.
Yeah, I have Grimscribe. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Well, I think it's like Grimscribe and something. It's a pretty hefty book. I don't know if it's two books in one, but it's like over 400 pages, and that's pretty long for a short story collection. I feel like
Yeah.
typically.
Um. Yeah. No. One of my I enjoy a lot of. I haven't. That's another thing. Maybe I'll try more short story collections sometime in the future. But I kind of share your concern that like it's if you remember Game of Thrones, there's that line when a Targaryen's born, the gods flip a coin. It's like that with short story collections or anthologies. You're just like, okay, this is gonna be the good ones, and then
Yeah.
what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it's they're nice to kind of break up the monotony of reading a novel. Like it's cool to have like these micro stories versus a longer narrative from time to time. That's why I've kind of vowed. I haven't completely kept to my vow, but to read
That's why
a
you don't
short
make
story
vows.
collection as one of my books, as one of my monthly reads. I'm going to read a short story collection, and Nick Pizzolatto's is coming up next, I think.
Oh yeah, tell me how that is. I'm
Yeah,
meaning to check that
between
out, but
yeah between here and the Yellow Sea. Yeah,
yeah,
so
I'm just terrible at keeping up with stuff. There's so many
yeah,
books. Oh.
yeah. There's too many, man. So many.
Also, I think Cities of Saints and Madmen is also a short story collection. You showed me that book a while back. Don't you have that one?
Yeah. Yeah, I got it right here.
It's a mushroom.
Yeah, this is the one with the doodle.
Yes. Wait, so did you actually meet Jeff Vandermeer?
No,
Or
so
did
he
he
lives in
just did you just
Florida.
go send me a copy, please? And he just sent it to you?
Nah, he lives in Florida, and there
Mm-hmm.
is a bookstore there, a local bookstore that was running a promotion. I think maybe I learned about it on Instagram or something. Like, hey, if you buy this book, I will doodle in it and sign it for you if you buy it from this store or anything else. So I bought this, and I bought the hardcover Area X, and so he signed that as well.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
so yeah, it's just like a local bookstore where he
Oh,
lives, and he frequents it often, and he just went in there to sign books, and they mailed them out. Yeah,
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 that's
like a
good.
little promo.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, that's cool. Need to keep an
Haven't
eye.
met him yet though. Haven't met him yet though.
No, it's I would love to have him on Britain's Hangout Hour at some point if he ever like for some reason if like God or Buddha or the universe or whatever stuff you believe in made it so like I would love to like pick that man's brain.
Well,
Maybe I'll
speaking of that,
maybe
who's your next? Go ahead.
I'll give you an
Sorry.
olive branch and you can join me.
Oh man, I would love that. So I'm curious. I remember you interviewed this Irish kid
Oh
on
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah,
channel
yeah, yeah.
once. That guy's really fascinating because he had a pretty small channel, but he was able to speak to some like big film
I
directors and
know. I was
actors
that
and
was kind
stuff,
of
and
that's kind of the basis
and
of our chat. I was like, dude, how did you get all these people?
yeah, and it's just like he has this. He says, you know what, fuck it. All they can do is say no or not respond.
Yeah,
And so I think he
exactly,
just
right? Yeah.
tries. You just got to try, and then because a lot of people think like, oh, I'll never get Jeff Vandermeer. I'll never be able to interview him. It's like, well, why don't you just message him, email him? Just maybe, who knows? Maybe
Well, I
he
mean,
would
I don't know his like
agree to do
email
it.
or what. I don't
Well,
know,
you
like
can
his,
DM him on Instagram or something. I'm sure.
yeah, no, but yeah, that would be. Yeah, no, that he was great. That was actually I should note it was one of those podcasts I really enjoyed doing.
Part of me though is like, you know the old adage like never meet your heroes.
Well, Jeff
Part of
Vandermeer seems
me
like a nice guy though. Seems
He
like
does, but part of me worries that some of these authors I really enjoy, like I get a chance to meet them or interview them, and I'd learn something about them that kind of turned me off from them, and that scares me. That prospect scares me.
can't be that bad. I like
No,
yeah.
well, I'm just saying that's the one thing that's why it's an adage, never
Yeah.
meet your heroes, because you're going to get let down in some regard if you ever get that opportunity, and so that's all I'm saying is that part of me worries that could happen, and I don't know. But I guess speaking of that, who's your next? I know you've been trying to, or you've been talking about getting Thomas from SFF 180 on your
I
channel.
would love to have him on. We've actually become acquainted on
Oh, really?
Instagram. He's a cool
Okay.
dude.
Yeah,
Um,
so that's in the works.
yeah, hopefully I sent him one like a year ago, and then finally he got back to me a while back, and he's all like,
A
"Hey,
year.
you still wanna do that?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, I do." It's like, just let me know, and then it's kind of gone quiet, but we formed an acquaintance, we'll say. Yeah, but he's
Nice.
interest very
Very well-read guy.
I was about to say he's a smart dude. Like
Yeah, in the sci-fi fantasy, I would say I probably respect him. I think probably more than any sci-fi fantasy book reviewer. Granted, I don't always agree with him, but he generally has something interesting to say. He doesn't feel like I'm just some dude who likes fantasy. I'm gonna make a YouTube channel. It feels like he's really putting himself into it, and he really appreciates the genre or genres.
yeah, like most I'll admit like he's got me to read some books and he hasn't let me down yet. So.
He did really like The Ballad of Black Tom, though, and you know how I feel about that book.
Yeah, you were
So
kind of you were kind of meh on that one.
yeah, I think there's another book that he really liked that I was like, really. Um, but anyway, no, I still enjoy his reviews, and like I said, even if I disagree with him, he's got a lot of good stuff to say.
Yeah, no, he's I watched his I'm actually about to I'm hopefully tomorrow I'll record the last bit of my what's the big fuss video cuz I've been just recording that sporadically for the past couple weeks. I watched his Fourth Wing review, and I'm like, damn it, he kind of summed up how I felt about reading those last couple chapters. Like, I was like, man, I
I
didn't want
watched
to
it
steal
too. I
from him.
remember.
I probably shouldn't have done that, but I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely use that as a template.
Oh God, that's my February book. I gotta read
Yeah,
my
I was gonna
romance
ask
book.
because I haven't seen any like read along stuff. Are you taking a break from that?
Nah, yeah, I was kind of taking a little bit of a break because it's a decent amount of work to put those videos out. And I kind of wanted to get through Fourth Wing before I did another read along.
Fair.
Just get that out of the way, you know,
Yeah, I saw
because
your
it's
Darkness That Came
chunky.
Before video with
Hmm.
I really like your thumbnails with
Thanks.
you're like
Yeah, that
bald and you're on a
thumbnail.
bird. You're like a bird
Well, that
man.
thumbnail, yeah, it's kind of like unless you've read the book, that probably makes no sense.
I thought it
But
was, no,
there's
I
these
just thought that was
creatures.
funny. I haven't read the
Yeah.
book though. I haven't read
No,
it
no, no.
yet.
But what I mean is that that's an actual creature in the novel.
Oh, a
So
head.
it's like it's a
A,
crow
a
with like a man's head,
Oh wow, that's
the
freaky.
bald head. Yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of
So
want to read that now.
yeah, yeah. It's a decent book. I recommend it for someone who needs a little bit heavier fantasy.
Yeah, weren't you like not feeling like Kellis or something? Like that's one of my friend's like favorite characters.
Yeah, I don't know why anyone likes that character. Again, maybe he becomes cool in later novels, but he's basically an android. He's like a robot in the book. And I was talking to Lee about it because Lee's read them all, and it feels like that's kind of the point. He's not supposed to be a compelling character. It's more about what he represents than what he is or who he is. So, but in isolation with a single volume, Callus is boring as all fuck. Like, I'm just sorry, he is. Like, he's not a cool character.
Well, I haven't read The
Um,
Darkness That Comes Before, so I can't comment.
yeah. Well, maybe someday. And I'm probably gonna read Perdido Street Station because I know you keep harping me about it
Yeah, I'm
this
curious
year.
what you said I'm curious I'm really curious what you'll think of that because I'm not really I don't
Not sure.
like I said I don't I'm kind of not sure with you sometimes.
Yeah, part of me is. I think the one thing I worry about it is it appears to be kind of that fantasy where it's like it's a little too weird and kind of cutesy in a way. I don't know a better way to describe it. Almost Neil Gaiman-esque, kind of where it's like, there's kids with like bug wings and shit, and I'm like, eh, that's kind of what worries me is the world building isn't going to be. I know it's a darker book. I know it's like it's serious. It's not supposed to be light, but I worry the aesthetic of it might turn me off. But we'll see.
Well, it depends on how you feel about like steampunk, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, steampunk.
It's a
Yeah,
it's a hard sell, man. Like I'll admit,
it
it is a bit of
is.
a hard sell. I
It's a
don't.
little cliche.
It's
It's a
kind of
little
hard.
like
It's kind of hard for me to describe it.
yeah, it's a little played out. But yeah, we'll see.
You
We'll see.
liked
And another thing
Arcane.
that's I like what
You liked Arcane, didn't you?
I did. I did. Yeah. So I mean, again, if there's like a great story at the heart of it, it's not necessarily the genre or the setting. But I'm just saying that's kind of my reservation. Also, the fact that it's pretty damn long. I always get daunted by books that isn't it like 600 pages or something like that?
Yeah, mine's in the 600. I don't remember the
Yeah.
length.
So that I'm always like, that seems like a lot of work. Like I could read a great 300-page book, and so I don't know. We'll see. I really want to get to it though because you keep talking about it that I should read it.
Yeah, no, it's I really it was my favorite book of 2022, and then I read Embassy Town in 2023, and that became one of my least favorite books. So it was you can't
Yeah.
always get a hit, man. You're not always gonna
No.
write a hit. I've learned.
No.
Um,
Just like Nick Pizzolatto.
yeah, because I'd like to do a season 1 True Detective discussion at some point, and I'm like, I don't freaking want to watch season 2 again. There's some good stuff in there, but
Part of me, I've been so far away from it for so long. Part of me wants to revisit it just to see, at least try an episode and see, like, okay, yeah, I'm not watching this. Or like, oh, okay, well maybe there's some things now that I have a certain mindset going into it. I'm not expecting season one. Maybe there's something to appreciate, but I don't know.
I am curious what you think of what you would think of S. Craig Zoller, the guy who did I don't know if you've seen any of his movies or read any of his, I've covered a couple of his books on my channel. Um,
Is he? He sounds familiar. What did he write?
I mean, I covered some of his book. He did Wraiths of the Broken Land, which I loved. I thought that book was amazing. And then he read A Congregation of Jackals, which I really liked. In terms of his movies, he did. My favorite of his is Brawl in Cell Block 99, which is
Yeah, I've seen that. I like that movie.
I was about to say,
Okay,
that's a
I remember this
fantastic
guy.
film.
Yeah, I remember this guy.
Oh
Definitely.
yeah,
So he's
speaking
a
of the
director?
Irish guy I talked to, his name's Daniel. Dude, talk to
Uh-huh.
S. Craig Zoller. I'm like, jeez, man. Like, come on. Like, how do you find these people?
There you go.
I,
There you
I
go, man. You just got to ask, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Also, he's hard to find on like I think he has like a website, and that's about it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe.
Yeah. I
That's another guy I would like to talk to. He seems like a really interesting dude.
yeah, I'm not I've thought about approaching other, writers, like published writers and stuff, to see, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm still unsure. I'm unsure if that's a path I want to go down with the channel, or if I want to keep them separate and appreciate them from afar, or not appreciate or unappreciate them
Well,
from afar.
I'm a never say never kind of man. So
Yeah,
I'll talk to anybody. I'm
never
curious.
say never.
What you would make of like other self-published books, because like that's been kind of, at least on our side of the internet, it's been kind of going off recently.
Yeah. Is there any title in particular you're curious about what I would think about?
Well, I'll admit I haven't actually read a lot of self-pub just yet. Anyway, well, I mean, between two fires was technically self-published, but Beelman's
It was?
technically published. Yeah, yeah, I looked it up. Yeah, he self-published that.
Wow.
Uh,
It's even still, or did it finally get picked up by a publisher?
I have no idea.
I imagine it's by a publisher by now, but that's interesting. Yeah, I've read a few self-published books for sure. I feel like most of the time, more often than not, I'm a little bit let down. And again, like I said, I view reading fiction as a learning experience for me. And so, I kind of want to learn from the best.
Like, I
And
have a
so,
couple. Like my friend Joe, his book Wistful
hmm
Ascending. I want to try.
hmm
Maybe next month I'll try that one. And one guy, his name's Steve Stark. In this book here, um, who's been a friend of the channel, or not? I don't. What I say, friend of a channel? Well, I mean, he's been very nice to me on the web. So I
yeah,
asked for his book to see how it is. Very similar format to my friend Curtis's book, Blackheart Boys Choir. So that was kind of funny when I got it in the mail because he sent it to me. But
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
nice thing. That's the nice thing about self pub. You can get a lot of free books.
Yeah, I've been hit up quite a few times, emailed asking for, hey, here's a free copy if you want to review it, and more often than not, it's like I always tell them, hey, I want to make sure I'm the right reader for your book, and I'd say like 9 times out of 10 they're writing in a genre that's just not, it might be like young adult fantasy, or it might be heroic fantasy like Brandon Sanderson or something, or it might be like I just got an email the other day from like a lit RPG, and I'm always like, hey, I appreciate you contacting me. I'm flattered that you'd want to give my opinion on this, but I always tell them, like, give me a chapter or two and I'll read it, and if it doesn't really click with me, then I'm not going to finish it, because again, I want to make sure you get a fair review. I don't want to hate review your book or anything like
Yeah,
that.
it's funny. What do you think about this lit art? You're a RPG player. You have a whole YouTube channel where you play RPGs.
I
I
do.
watched a little bit of your last episode
Yeah,
last
you
night.
you stopped by. Yeah, I saw you. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of this lit? I think it's freaking weird. I haven't. Now I'll admit, I try not to. Now I am the guy. I don't try to knock things unless I try them, but or at least until I try them, then I can knock on them. But like I just find lit RPGs kind of weird. Like I would rather just go play the thing. I'd rather just go play like a video game or,
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like Ready Player One. It's in that realm where you're like, yeah. I remember the genre popped up like I don't know. It's been a while, maybe 5-10 years, but it was kind of a big deal, and then I didn't really hear much about it. Now it's all about new adult. That's the whole thing, or romantasy.
oh god.
But yeah, Fourth Wing, here we come. But yeah, not a fan of that. I don't like stories to be me experiencing kind of another medium, or I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, it's weird reading about like a video game basically, or like a
Yeah,
role-playing
exactly.
game.
It's just yeah.
I
feel
I'm like I would
similar.
like you. I'd rather play the game than read a story about somebody in the game. I don't know. Yeah, not my
Again, I try not
not
to
my
knock
thing.
things until I try them, but like there's some genres I'm like, like what? But I mean, I have some
Yeah.
friends I play RPGs with who are like, it's not that bad. I'm like, I'm not saying it's bad. I just I don't know.
No, it's just not for you.
Just
Yeah, that's how I feel.
I'm
Like
just
it's just not
unsure.
for me. Yeah, and that's why I tell people when they send me stuff, I'm like, well, if this is not for me, I don't want to read it because I want to make sure you ideally want to have someone review your book who is a fan of the genre or the tone of it or something, not someone who's never reviewed a book in that genre whatsoever. So,
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I don't know who A Plague of Nightmares would appeal to. Would definitely, I mean, I do have some leeway because I do have some friends in the like booktube community, but or maybe even or actually I did read a song for the end of the world by
yeah, you read
a
my book.
certain author.
It's not fantasy. It's not
No,
lit
it's not
RPG.
fantasy. No, it's
It's
not.
not new adult. It's not what else is it? Is it not that's popular? I don't
Which
know. It's not a lot of things.
I'll be honest, Jason. I mean, we've talked about it a few times. I don't know if I was in the right headspace to read it. I might read it again at some point.
Yeah, I feel like it's a book that
Because I was like, oh,
it's
post-apocalyptic story. I bet this will be fun, or maybe not fun, but I think I'll enjoy it. And I was like, what the fuck is this?
yeah, it's kind of it's a weird story, and it's one that yeah, I don't know. When I go back to it, not that I've gone back to it in a long time, but yeah, it's cool to see a story that's done and maybe you flip to a page and you're like, oh, this was this part of my life or something. It's a weird kind of stylized, and the more people I've talked to who've read it, some people have really enjoyed it, some people don't like it at all, and that's valid because I didn't make it for everybody. I think that's the thing, is like a lot of writers too get discouraged when people don't like their stuff. I'm like, well, you have to understand that your book's not for everybody. And I,
Also,
I would I would rather have a more passionate, smaller audience than like a broad audience.
I also read The Beast of Saint Ender because I saw your video about
Ah,
that book. Really liked that
Matt's
one.
book. He has a new one called
Um,
Alice too.
yeah, I haven't read that one yet. Maybe I'll pick that one up and read it in October. But could have been a 5 star, except I guessed who the killer was. So I was like, yeah, that sucks. I'm like, if that happens, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to get a little downgrade, but great story
Yeah,
nonetheless. It was so
yeah,
close, and Matt was
yeah.
like, I'm glad you liked it anyway, and I'm like, yeah, that's good. I'm glad you.
Yeah, he's really what I
Sometimes I
like
have a
about
hard time reading that, man.
Matt's books is he's really doubled it down on the you know the early, or what is it, the 19th century British kind of vibe. He's really poured himself into that genre and become that genre. And so when you read his books, it's like it feels very authentic, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, I like it. It feels authentic to that period. But
Yeah, it felt
again,
like when I was reading it, I'm like, oh, this makes me feel like the time I read Sherlock Holmes years and years ago,
yeah,
because I
though.
think he he,
Oh,
he really gets the vibe of it.
but the thing is, like, I don't know. Sometimes I can't read that man because I'm like, is he just fucking with me? Because there's sometimes I'm like, is he just fucking around or is he like being serious?
Oh, you mean in the chat?
Yeah, like when we're
Yeah,
talking.
he's very very sarcastic. He is very dry humor. But yeah, I get it. I can see how someone like, is he serious? Like, what's going on here? But when you talk to him in person or like on camera, you get it. You know, you get what he's doing. But in text, yeah, it's a little more difficult at times.
Yeah, no, it's God, I watched you guys as like I think I actually you guys did a stream together. It was actually for like it was like for a milestone you did, and I think I actually went to go
Oh
see
yeah,
Oppenheimer that night.
the thousand
And I
subs. Yeah.
come back and he's like sniffing the pages, like just straight up,
Yeah.
just like if he were like snorting like cocaine or something.
Yeah, we've been talking about starting a podcast, but we can't quite about storytelling and stuff like that. We haven't got around to it yet, but yeah, he's a good dude. He's a character, all right.
Yeah, no. Speaking of that, you have some stuff on your channel. Like you were doing that thing for a while about books that like impacted you. Have you found anyone else who to do that?
No, I haven't really asked anybody. I know you gave me The Great Gatsby, which I'll eventually get to. You mentioned that was a highly impactful book, but I haven't actually asked anybody else. But yeah, more than open to do that again. Yeah, that was fun because I feel like you get so much more out of a book when you talk to somebody who's really passionate about it.
Mm,
You see everything in a new perspective,
mm-hmm.
and you gain more appreciation. It's kind of like when I talked to you about Heart of Darkness, and then I talked to Carol about The Passenger, and yeah, it's cool. I talked to Mats about the Hunt or the Lady in Black or the Woman in Black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great. It's really cool to talk to people who are passionate about something and that you've experienced as well, but maybe didn't have the same reaction. But now that you're hearing it from a passionate point of view, you gain so much more out of it. Like I learned a lot when I talked to Mats and Carol about that stuff. So yeah, it's a good time. I haven't I enjoyed those, but I haven't thought about it to do it in a little while.
Oh, well,
Unless
I
you have another book.
well I
Maybe if I
was
read Perdido, right? You'd probably come on for that.
yeah. I mean, no, I don't know if that impacted my life. I just really enjoyed that book a lot. It was really like whoa. It was one of those books. Maybe after
Gotcha.
it was like when you. It was like after it was like I watched you when you did your review of Knockemstiff. I kind of felt like that, except I was a little more excitable. You were just like, man, this is cool, yeah. I don't know, I can't do your voice.
You can't do my impression.
No, I can't.
Yeah, I'm one of the people who talk about books on YouTube that isn't bouncing off the walls.
Yeah, no. I try
Yeah.
not to do that either, but like I notice like my
Hey,
voice is a
be
little
yourself,
different.
man. Be yourself, man. Just be yourself.
That's what I'm.
Don't try
That's
to be
what I'm
anybody.
doing. Like I'm just.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
you are. You're definitely yourself. So
no, but
don't change.
But I noticed something recently about books that I enjoy. I've noticed that I really like books where the location is almost like a character in the story, you know.
Yeah, it should
You,
be.
you know? Like I think that's why I like that's why I like the Southern Reach books a lot, I think.
Hmm.
And why I like Perdido Street Station a lot and like Heart of Darkness or like Blood Meridian because like a lot of that like the setting is almost a character in and of itself. I don't know, but
Yeah,
like and
you're
I felt
right.
kind of like a dummy because I didn't think of that till still recently. But I'm sure you've also had epiphanies where you're like, how come I didn't think of that earlier? And then just move on with your life.
Yeah. But if you read any writing books, they always say that the character should be its own, or the setting should be its own character. So that you've identified that as a quality is something that the writers definitely thought about, which is great.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I know you were kind of meh on the Vor, but I really like that about the Vor.
Yeah, I mean, it was rich as fuck. I mean, it was like, I'll give him credit that it was rich. It was very
It
detailed. It was
was
very
rich.
imaginative, but it wasn't like there wasn't enough story for me to latch onto, and that's really the failing of it for me. And I need a story guide me through this world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, yeah, or what's another one I could think of? I mean, I think when fantasy is done really well, it can do that very well, you know.
The problem
Or
with fantasy is that it's also generalized now, where everybody just
like
assumes.
Middle Earth, for instance, like
Yeah, yeah. Well, even that. I mean, that was sort of the first big high fantasy book, I guess. But um, now it feels generic
or even like
because everybody
Hyberia
is.
from
Oh,
Conan.
yeah, that's true. But
Bro, I
again, that's
saw.
all very inspired by real places and stuff.
Well, I mean, I saw Matt's fantasy book reviews the other day talk about
Hmm.
Conan, and it was just another one of his like contrarian reviews that I was just like,
He didn't like it. Why didn't you like it?
it was just oh man, I've thought about making a response to a few of his takes because like he did one on Blood Meridian, which he didn't care for. And I should note, like, it's fine if he doesn't like those things. Like, he's fine to think that. It's just like there's a part of me that thinks he kind of misses the point on some of those books that he doesn't like. But it's
Yeah.
probably just me being. It's probably my fan id going off. I don't
No,
know.
you're right. I was talking to my friend. That reminds me. I was talking to my friend the other day about No Country for Old Men, and he was saying how that movie pissed him off because the bad guy didn't get caught. And I'm like, that's the point. That is the point of the fucking movie. Is that, or one of the points, is that Bell is like trying to bring order, and the good guy dies, and the bad guy gets away, and
Eh,
that's the whole point of the novel.
I wouldn't call
It's
Moss a good guy, but yeah, okay. Like he's
You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's why I said air quotes, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
he's not the good guy, but he sort of represents, I guess, to the casual reader who might be the protagonist, the one to root for, right? I felt like McCarthy was really destroying tropes in that novel,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that just reminded me because what you said is that I just think he doesn't get it. And like my friend, I'm like, you just don't get what he's trying to do.
Yeah, I know, and that's weird. It's a weird double-edged sword because like I hate it when people tell me about like books or films like Zack Snyder's films. Like I've talked with Snyder fans and like you don't get it, and I'm all like it
No,
irritates me.
I think you get Zack Snyder. I don't think there's anything deeper to get about Zack Snyder's
Well,
work.
yeah, yeah. I mean, or maybe like I don't know. I mean, hell, I read Inherent Vice last
Whew.
year. I don't know if I fully got that. I don't. I mean,
I
I
I don't
appreciated
care.
it.
Yeah, I don't care to get it. That was a tough read for me. Well, I didn't finish it, but as far as I got.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. I don't know. I mean, I haven't even like done a review or I don't know what to think of that book. To be honest with you, but
Yeah, same thing with the film. I remember watching the movie, going like, what is this? And then you get to the end, you're like, okay,
I do love Paul Thomas Anderson though a
yeah,
lot.
he's great. Yeah, that's why I saw it. And Joaquin Phoenix.
Um, yeah, no, one of my other film I enjoy a lot. I like There Will Be Blood. My favorite of his is probably There Will Be Blood, which is probably the like normie pick, maybe. But well, maybe
That's
the
a really
normie
good
pick is
movie.
Boogie Nights, and I have a weird relationship with Boogie Nights because like I'll watch it and I just think this is just Goodfellas with porn, like
Yeah,
like
there's nothing wrong with that.
but
Taking two properties and mixing it up and making your own thing.
don't get me wrong, I like Boogie Nights fine. It's just kind of like it's why I haven't watched Firefly because I love Cowboy Bebop, and I'm like, will my enjoyment of Cowboy Bebop ruin the experience of watching Firefly?
Firefly. I have a hot take on that, and that it's not very good.
Yeah, I know you're not a Joss Whedon fan. You don't like that snappy
No,
dialogue.
it was.
I wonder what you think of
It's
Aaron Sorkin then.
it's not that I don't like snappy dialogue. It's that I don't like bad snappy dialogue. I
I
have no
wonder what you
problem
think of
with
like
snappy
Aaron
dialogue.
Sorkin.
Aaron Sorkin
Yeah, yeah.
is fine. Doesn't bother me. I can't even remember the last. Jeez, what would be the
He
last?
did The
Aaron
Social
Sorkin?
Network and A Few
Yeah, I've
Good
seen that.
Men, and he's done a bunch of stuff.
I'm trying to think of the last movie I watched of his, though. It might have been. Jeez, was it? It might have been Social Network. Holy crap, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, I actually got into a debate with a guy I know on this site I use about The Social Network the other day.
Really?
It was interesting. He was going off
Oh,
about if it's ethical to make biopics.
why would it be unethical?
He's one of those like leftist, fuck the rich kind of guys. So from his, if it were up to him, like Mark Zuckerberg would be fucking Daniel Plainview, except with even less dimension to that character. Even though the whole point of The Social Network is, wow, look how fucking pathetic and sad this guy is. I don't get it.
Yeah, I know.
I don't get it.
That is weird. Yeah, no, I'd be.
He's all like,
curious what his
"Oh, I know
argument
people
is.
who might think that's a good thing." I'm like, they must be fucking idiots because I saw that pretty clear. This is not something you want to be, even if he does have a bunch of money.
Well,
did you ever read Into the Wild?
No, but I've seen the film.
There's the quote that he has: "Happiness is only good when shared." Like it's that, that's why that's sad.
That's a great quote.
And like, I don't get him. He's one of those guys. I don't know if you've ever met people like this, but he's just on like another level that you're just like, what? Like, he just thinks the world in a different. Like he's kind of like a Rust, I guess. He's just like on this other plane of existence, and you're just like, all right,
Yeah, I've known people like that. Yeah.
Or Carol, Carol from time to time.
Carol, yeah.
Poor
He's
Carol.
an interesting guy.
Where you're just like, I don't get that, but okay, if that's what you think.
Did you see Lee did a really long rebuttal of his anti-natalist philosophy?
Oh yeah, I saw a little bit of it. I didn't read the whole article, but
I'm
read
still
his.
reading it. It's really long.
He destroys Carol Wainwright with like facts and logic.
Yeah.
I had a laugh at that.
He makes some good points in there, though, from what I've read so far. So, yeah, it's a good read.
I thought that was funny.
Yep. Destroyed. Or no, he said wrecked.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was like, dude, this is gonna be great.
Yeah.
I'm curious if Carol saw it.
Lee told me he's gonna make a video.
Oh,
and
he is?
and then read it like he does his book reviews, and so then he can tag Carol, I think.
No, it's yeah, I enjoy a lot of yeah, I kind of want to read the what is it, the unheaviness of being or something. I can't remember shit. I've had a long day today.
Yeah, the heaviness of being.
The heaviness of being. That's right.
Or life reviled. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit of a longer title.
Yeah, it's a hell of a little ride. It's not a very long book, but it's in your face.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I think I watched you and Carol discussing it, and I was like, all right, maybe I'll read this, because, I mean, I don't mind reading. I'm probably not going to agree with his, anti-natalist, life sucks bit.
Well,
But,
yeah.
but
it's
I'll
not
read
about
it,
agreeing with him. Yeah, it's not about agreeing with him. It's more about, like, getting somebody else's perspective.
Like, for instance, I don't know if I agree with, like, Cormac McCarthy's, like, pessimism, but, I still enjoy his books a lot.
Yeah, you are a pretty optimistic guy.
Or, like, China Mieville, our politics are separate, but I enjoy his books a lot. That's, I don't mean, it's like we can't respectably disagree anymore. And I sound like an old person, but I think it's true.
I think you're right. I think it's everyone gets
like, do you see that, like, offended. Brandon Sanderson is not your god thing? It's kind of, Though I guess that's kind of different. He was kind of slandering the guy, but I digress.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah, that was
screeching.
kind of that was kind of an unfair article, from what I've read of it. I mean, the guy invited you into his home and you met his family, and then you write this kind of shit piece about him. Like, what a dick. Like, oh, he's a big fat nerd and da 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 da. It's like, the guy invited you into his home. Like, you met his wife and his kids, and like, you write an article talking about how he's a big fat nerd with a blazer. Like,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
like if I
get it, man.
walked in your
It's weird.
house and I wrote like a bad like piece about you or something. Like hashtag Jason Fuhrman exposed or something like that. Be like, he has infinite jest in there, and he hadn't even read it.
I
Unbelievable.
haven't. It's not
Hashtag
even my
canceled.
book. Hashtag canceled. What a it's like having guitars hanging on your back wall, right? It's like, what a fucking poser. He's got infinite jest, like, what a poser.
Yeah, it's one of those books. Like, I'm kind of afraid of trying. Like, it's
Yeah, I honestly have no interest. I look at it and I'm like, why would I ever read that? Like it's so big, and if you open it up, there's so many lines of tiny text. It's like reading a Bible or something.
it's like, well, you read House of
Yeah.
Leaves. It can't be that bad.
No, well, that's the thing. I think that's what, maybe it's like that for me. Maybe I should give it a try, because when I did eventually read House of Leaves, I was like, holy shit. Like,
That's another one
everything
of those
about
books.
it.
I'm like, man, I'm kind of scared of this book.
No, it's great. I love it. I love that book. I should probably read it again at some point, but yeah. Yeah, so who knows? Maybe Infinite Jest would be like that for me, but I kind of doubt it. I've heard it's a pretty difficult book.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I watched a movie called The End of the Tour, which is about the guy who wrote Infinite Jest. Pretty good film. I mean, I'm not a huge Eisenberg fan, but I like the movie, even though I really enjoy The Social Network. Though it was kind of a good
Nice.
role for him. He played a huge douchebag in that film.
Yeah, Eisenberg's a weird guy. Well, he plays weird guys.
Yeah.
I don't know him personally.
Did you ever see Zombieland?
I did.
What do you think of that movie?
Yeah, it was fine. I don't think I liked it as much as a lot of people did, but
I think Shaun of the Dead's
whole,
better,
like,
but I enjoy Zombieland.
yeah, the whole like comedy horror. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm over it or if I was never into it.
Did you ever
I
watch
guess
Shaun
Evil
of the Dead?
Yeah, I like Shaun of the Dead when I saw it, but I just think when you do it once, it's kind of like, okay, I'm done. I don't need another zombie funny movie, really, personally. But it was okay.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, I thought it was pretty good, though. I was like, Shaun of the Dead, guys, like, that's a way better movie. Or at least I think so.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I do. It's a tighter movie for sure. I agree.
Though again, I like Woody Harrelson a lot, so there you go. Take that with you, what you will.
Yeah, he's a good actor anyway. Again, don't
think-
know the guy.
I was about to say, I think he's better than people give him credit for, because Woody's kind of like this, I don't know what to describe him. He's just kind of like funny dude. He's kind of weird hippie guy, I guess, and
Kinda, yeah.
and I'm like, oh no, he's good. Like, he watched like No Country and True Detective. He's good in those.
Yeah.
It's a good show. I don't
Fantastic show. I love it.
know. Yeah, you actually did No Country for Old Men a while back, or you did it at the beginning of the month, actually, or you finished it at the beginning of the month. So did it hold up for you?
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. Found new things about it that I didn't realize from last time, and the last time I read it, or the first time I read it even. Yeah, it was, because I'm always, when you know a story, when you know how it plays out more or less, kind of like with Fight Club, when you go back and you read it, you're like, am I just gonna be bored? Because I know what to expect. But with No Country, it's a pretty magical book. It's a great book.
I did the hot, I commented on your hot take video the other day, and I was talking about Fight Club, and I'm just like, I it's one of those books I have a weird relationship with. It's kind of like Catcher in the Rye, or like, I don't know.
Yeah, Catcher in the Rye.
Where you're just like, what? Like I respect what it's doing, but I'm kind of sick of it at the same time. Like, do you have books like that? Has that ever happened to you?
I'm trying to think of books.
Or like
I'm
movies?
just God. I can't think of anything off the top of my head where I feel like it's people talk about it all the time and I'm over it. I don't know, maybe Star Wars, but I don't know.
I was about to say, I know you kind of were like that with Star Wars, but...
Yeah, I like the original trilogy, but it's just kind of like I enjoyed it as a kid, but I don't feel the need to like keep revisiting that universe over and over and over again. And my friend is he's a huge Star Wars fan, so I feel like he's always talking about it. But maybe that's the closest thing I can think of. Yeah.
Don't think like you don't think of something like, I don't know, Sicario or like the Dune movies where you're like, I don't fucking get that. I'm sick of this.
Well, Avatar.
Well, Avatar sucks.
Yeah.
Wait, are you talking about The Last Airbender or
no. The James Cameron stuff. Yeah,
oh yeah, that movie sucks.
That was more like I don't get it. I don't know why it's such a worldwide success. I mean, sure,
I think it's because of the effects, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but effects. Really, that's all people need anymore is like effects. It's like, Jesus Christ, what have we come to?
Yeah, no, I don't like that movie.
I do not either.
Yeah, no, Fight Club's like, I don't know, like I read Lullaby and I read Rant, and I like those books a lot. I think the satire in Rant is a lot better. In terms of
Rant was great, yeah.
Or the one about the suicide bomber. That I thought that one had really good satire. Maybe it's Survivor. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's
either
Survivor.
Rant or Survivor. I don't quite remember.
Rant was the guy with rabies that could like time travel or some weird shit, wasn't it?
Yeah, Palahniuk's a weird dude. My God.
Yeah.
Do you watch his soft white? I showed you the soft white underbelly interview he did.
Yeah, no, I need to. Fuck, I forgot about that. I need to watch it. Yeah, I love hearing him talk though. He's a good conversation.
Or like he was on Joe Rogan. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
Like, he's talking about like his dad, which I mean, which inspired Lullaby. Which I liked Lullaby a lot. That was a weird one. It's about like this song that drives you insane. It's kind of Carcosa-y or, Lovecraft-y.
Interesting.
Maybe you'll, feel the same way you do, but I like that one a lot. I thought it was pretty good.
I'll have to check it out. You've piqued my interest with Carcosa and Lovecraft.
Well, I mean, it's just like a similar idea. Like, you listen to this, like, lullaby, hence the title. It drives you insane, pretty much. And you're like, oh yeah, you were talking about cosmic horror earlier. I was, Laird Barron. I've heard his cosmic horror is really good. I haven't read any of his short stories.
You haven't?
Though.
I thought you've read one of his novels.
Yeah, I've read his crime novels, which also has cosmic horror bits in there. But I don't know. I have a complicated. That first book is pretty good, and the other two are like. There's some issues there. Yeah, but, But, yeah, no, I like, I've heard his cosmic horror, though, is really good.
That's cool. Yeah, I'll have to check him out. He has an eye patch, too, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm like, I can get even more hard-boiled. Dude has a freaking eye patch. And also, he followed me on Twitter, and I'm all like, hey, man, you want to come on my podcast at some point? And he's like, yeah, we'll need to set up a time or something. He actually got back with me, and I'm like, oh.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, why hasn't he been on the podcast yet?
We still need to set up a time. Yeah, we're gonna...
Get on that, man.
Yeah, I'll admit, it's been slow. It's probably because it's January, and everyone's kind of like... It's like, It's like, you know what January's like, Jason?
What is January like?
It's like I've never been hungover before, but it's like getting over a hangover. You're just like it's like you partied really hard and then you wake up the next morning and you're like, "What the fuck happened?" And you're like recovering for the next few days. It's kind of like that.
Huh.
Or at least that's how it feels in my experience.
Yeah, it's not like that for me, but cool to know how it makes you feel.
What does January feel like to you? Are you just like
It just feels like another month. I don't think it really feels like anything to me personally.
because I'm one of those guys like I like being like on the move and stuff and like doing things and I just there was a lot of people like, yo, we gotta wait till February, and I'm like, okay. So I was kind of in this weird limbo for a while, but hope I can
Yeah, I
get the
can see.
podcast back and running.
Yeah, I can see how like the start of the new year could be overwhelming for some people.
Yeah, no, I got some people for February. I'm hoping to get on here. Yeah, and
Awesome.
I'm kind of surprised I made it to 50. To be honest with you, I was like, well, shit, man.
One more, that'll be 50.
I was like, it's a weird spot we're in at the moment. And also my classes started again, so that probably didn't help matters.
Oh yeah, now you'll be busy.
Yeah,
When do you
no.
graduate anyway?
Either probably next year.
Okay,
So yeah.
cool.
Yeah, my dad was like, I hope you can like, it's like I just want you to find a way to feed yourself when you get out of college. I'm like, Dad, I worry about that too. Like, please, you don't need to tell me. I already worry about that as it is. I do, I have been bitten by the noir bug again. I might read Motherless Brooklyn soon. I don't know. From
I watched the movie. Wasn't a huge fan of it, but I'd be curious on your take on the story.
Yeah, it looked cool. I mean, it's kind of the thing with noir. It's kind of like a similar, like at least with the PI stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like a similar guy, just with like a weird quirk.
Mm-hmm.
This one, the dude has like Tourette's, if I remember right.
Yep.
So I'm curious how that'll go.
In the movie, it's pretty funny. It's kind of that's the thing about the movie. It's like it's kind of funny-ish. Whereas I tend to like noir to be a little more serious for the most part.
Yeah,
But I think when you have the
I
lead
also like
is
Edward
have
Norton.
Tourette's.
So
Yeah, he was great in it. I guess I was hoping it would feel a little more authentic than it did when I watched it. Felt like it felt like an older movie. It was weird.
yeah, I think
But I know it's not that old.
yeah, it's weird how that works.
Yeah.
I think my
Felt like
favorite
it was made like 10 plus years ago or something.
I think my favorite Norton movie that he's been in is either American History X or Primal Fear.
I would probably pick American History X, I think.
That's a fantastic movie, isn't it? It's a great film.
It's a great movie.
Like, damn. I mean, apparently the director got all pissed off because like Norton was like trying to like mess with it, but I mean, I still think it's a great film.
What do you mean mess with it?
Like he wanted more control of the movie or something because like Norton's one of those guys, like he's one of those like kind of all in type of guys. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know, but I bet must be annoying to work with, but like great actor though. Like he's fantastic in American History. That might be my favorite performance from him.
Yeah.
Well, again, that and Primal Fear. That's another fantastic film. No, I mean, that's one of those where the twist is what everyone remembers, but it's a great film up till that as well. But the twist just makes it, like, better. Or at least I think it does. Did you ever watch Primal Fear?
I did. It's been a really long time, though. I don't remember a whole lot about it.
You watch a stupid amount of movies. Like, I've lost... Like, that's another thing I've lost, like, kind of track with, like, the movies. Like... Also,
I
there's
don't
just
watch
not a
as
lot of.
many as I do now. I used to watch a lot more, and lately I've been disappointed because I haven't
There's
kept up.
there's not a lot of stuff that's been interesting recently. It's kind of making me sad, you know.
I always feel like I have something to watch. I've never run out of stuff.
Also, I have like a bunch of streaming services, so I'm like, oh fuck, where am I gonna start? You know.
There you go.
So
That too.
that hasn't helped. That hasn't helped matters. At least for me, it hasn't. I mean, like, are there like movies you've seen recently that were like that really tickled you?
Tickled me. You like to use that word lately, I've noticed.
Yeah, I don't know. It's,
Let's
that's
see. What
that's
have I
got
seen
that's gotten you
recently?
going. That you're like, wow.
Let me look at my Plex really quick and see what's going on. Oh, I don't have it up. I can't think of anything. Well, I think I talked about this last time, but is it Where Evil Lurks or When Evil Lurks? It's an
Yeah,
Argentine film.
I
I
think I
really
remember you
enjoyed that
talking
one.
about that.
Yeah, that was a really great one. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I enjoyed that film. Or well, wait, no, I haven't seen that one. I've heard it's a possession movie.
It is.
Let me tell you, being a kid who was raised Christian, that is not a fun experience. I'm not a big fan of possession movies. They really drive into you the like fear of demons and shit when you're in when you're in church. You're like, oh man, shit. Though I have seen The
Yeah,
Exorcist. That's a great film. And I'm
that
like,
is a
all
good one.
right.
Great book too.
And I'm like, all right. I think I'm good. Though I might read A Head Full of Ghosts at some point because I know everyone's
That's a
like,
good one.
oh man, that's a great book. I mean, I read The Cabin at the End of the World. I thought that was pretty good.
This one's better, for sure.
Um, but I really liked Cabin at the End of the World. So maybe I'll read A Head Full of Ghosts at some point.
Read it.
But he leaves it a little ambiguous
That's
if
his signature.
it's actually like possession or if she's just crazy. Maybe
Yep.
crazy is the wrong word, but like mentally
Yep.
ill.
That's what makes it so great. Is that you get to the end of it and you're like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is that? You know what I mean? That's
Hmm.
what's beautiful about that book.
Yeah. Are there authors you want to try more of at the moment? Man.
Uh, I know there are some. I'm sure that I can't think of
I mean,
authors I want to try more of. Well, China Mielville. I definitely want to give that a go. Give his book a go. Perdido.
mm,
Um, I want to find some good horror. I'm really Ligotti. I want to read Ligotti. I've been putting that
I
off
want
for
to
far too
retry
long.
Legati because I just again it wasn't his fault. I just kind of lost the fire to read it. Also, this was
Yeah,
before I kind of
it seems like one of those books where you have to work. Again, it's not like hey, I'm trying my best to keep your attention. He's doing what he wants to do, and you're either along for the ride or you're not.
Vandermeer
Yeah,
likes him though. Like he likes him a lot.
yeah. He's a very well respected, weird fiction writer for sure.
Yeah, I wanna give him another shake. See how he goes. I actually had a like little like rant about True Detective a while ago because there were a couple of like the Legati dorks who thought like Pizzolatto was ripping him off, which I
Oh
guess
yeah.
in some senses he was. But like I think when people make that argument, they're kind of missing the point. Like he wasn't merely just copying him. He was like, okay, Legati wrote this book called The Conspiracy Against the Human Race, and like
Hmm.
he has this very pessimistic, almost nihilistic philosophy. Okay, what would that be like? What would someone who actually believed that stuff? What would that person be like? And that's True Detective, and like so when I hear people say he's ripping off Legati, I find that just kind of misses the point of the show entirely.
Yeah,
But again,
I
maybe
can
I'll
see
save
that.
that for True Detective when I talk about that eventually.
You need to read some more Legati first.
Yeah, I need to read more Legati. I do want to read The Conspiracy Against the Human Race, but I'm like, Uh,
I know Wainwright, Falcon Reed's read it and reviewed it, I believe.
oh, did he? I wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
surprised. It seems right up his alley.
Yeah, totally.
Like, again, I guess I'm not really the I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird thing. It's and believe it or not, I flirt with pessimism, but I can't bring myself to. I mean, who wants to live like that? Just like everything sucks, everything's shitty, people
Yeah.
suck. Like I don't want to live like that. It might seem reasonable, but I don't want to live like that. It sounds like a sad existence.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'm glad you're not trying to dip your toes too deep in the ocean of pessimism.
Yeah, I saw your video where you're like, yeah, I'm kind of a pessimist. I'm like, oh really? Oh God, I wouldn't have sussed that out.
I don't know. I mean, sometimes I am. Sometimes I think it just really depends on what it is I'm talking about here.
I do want to read that book you were talking about, Civilized to Death,
Yeah, it's a good book. I really enjoyed that one a lot.
which like you're already picky about books, but you're like when it comes to nonfiction. So I'm like, I want to see what this I want to see what he's
Yeah.
talking about.
It just. I don't know. It because we're constantly inundated with how, oh man, look how far we've come as a species and how much better everything is, and it was kind of cool to hear his perspective as like a counter argument to that fact.
Mm.
Showing how like basically anything we create is sort of like a band-aid for progress. So because we've progressed, we have to create these things. Like one of his examples is the whole reason why we have all these diseases and shit is because we started living among animals, like agriculture. We
Oh,
started
okay.
owning
I'm like, what?
animals, and that is what got us all of these crazy diseases, not just us being out in nature and shit. So it's kind of cool. And it's like, oh, well, then we made penicillin, but it's like, okay, that's just a band-aid for shit we caused ourselves, right? We
Mm.
did this all to ourselves. Um, but anyway, it's kind of it's a cool book, just something cool to think about in terms of like, you know, where we are, where we've gone, and how people perceive just where we are as a species. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, I've seen like stuff. I generally don't love those books about like, oh, here's where we are, because like a lot of it I just find is like it just turns into like old men yelling at the clouds about like like have you read like Steven Pinker, or I think that's the guy's name,
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, there's
or maybe it's
God,
Michael Pinker.
nah, Steven Pinker. It's called something Our Better Angels or whatever, where he does argue that like everything is better than it's ever been.
I don't think I've read that one. I've just read a couple of his
Yeah,
articles, and I'm like, yeah, yeah.
but it's funny. The author in this book, he cites the flaws in some of his arguments and stuff. So it's kind of funny. Well, I mean, his opinion that they're flaws, but yeah, it's a good book. You should check it out.
Yeah, I'll have to. I'll add it to my ever expanding list of books to read. Another book I'd be
Your
curious.
chair is getting taller and taller with books.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no. Yeah, I lift it up when I do these because like sometimes like the thing right there it
Yeah.
blocks my face.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like I like nonfiction. I just I don't know something about it's like a drug maybe. Though
Well, what's
I
tricky is like it's you're taking somebody's word almost that like this is all true. Now, granted, they may have evidence and stuff like that, but still, it's nonfiction's always an evolving thing, right? Like science, it's always evolving. We always learn. Things are always changing, and what we once thought was this is how it is, like, oh, never mind, we found this other stuff that basically just debunks this entire book. You're like, wait, I wasted my time reading these facts. You know?
yeah yeah I
That's
mean
why.
yeah, that's always the thing. I mean, one of my favorite nonfiction books, like I mentioned earlier, is Into the Wild,
Mhm.
and I've seen people go like, yeah, but it didn't really happen like that. But I'm like, you know what? I've
Yeah,
just
nobody really
realized,
knows.
I've just realized at this point, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care. All right. I enjoy this book for what it is. It may not even have to be all true. Okay, I don't know. It's just, that stuff frustrates me. No, I'll keep it like that.
Yeah, I hear you.
I did. Though speaking of that, I'm finally gonna get around. I've never actually read it, though I know what happens. I got In Cold Blood, and I'm gonna buddy read it with a friend of mine. In February, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I tried it. Couldn't really get into it, unfortunately, but like I said, nonfiction for me is really tough to get into.
Well, I mean, what was it about Civilized to Death that like really got you like interested?
I think I was just kind of fascinated in sort of where we've come from as a species, like, and how,
Oh yeah, you mentioned that in
you
our
know,
sci-fi chat.
yeah, well, because like if you think about it, there's all kinds of modern debilitating diseases that just they're a product of civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Like depression, diabetes, all of these things are like running rampant now, and it's like we've kind of created them with this very toxic thing we call progress.
You might like
And
Ligotti then. Apparently he covers a lot of like urban decay and
yeah,
like soul crushing office work.
yeah, it's weird because
Apparently his work is not very cheerful, from what I've heard.
yeah, one thing in Civilized to Zest that stood out to me is he was talking about these two guys who went to live with this tribe, I think in South America or something, and they're having a conversation with them, and the tribe was asking them like, or they were saying, how much do you work a day? And they're like, I don't know, like we kind of go forage and hunt maybe like 3 to 4 hours a day, and they're like, well, what do you do the rest of the day? Like, oh, just relax, just lay around, talk to each other, enjoy each other's company. And then they're like, well, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I work, 8 to 10 hours a day. They're like, why? Why do you do that? Oh, well, I have a house. What? How much do you have? How much is your house? It's like this much. How much is it going to take to pay it off? Oh, 30 years. They're like, what? And then it's funny when you pose it in that. I was like, well, what do you do when you want a house? He's like, well, if somebody needs a house, we just go build one. We get together as friends and we build a house, and like he has a house. And it's just funny because when you think
That's
of it in
funny.
the
I
other
had
way,
a
where
similar conversation like that with my dad the other day.
yeah, you're slaving away at a job for most of your life where you can actually are physically able to enjoy life, to buy things that really don't mean anything. And then meanwhile, these guys are like, yeah, we're just we love life, man. We're hunting for a few hours, and then we're going to lay around and have some conversations and play some music and tell stories. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's about right.
Yeah.
Well, it's getting a little late where I'm at, so I might have to
It
stop
is.
this again. So Jason, thank you again for coming on here. We should do this again.
Always
at some point.
happy to help, man. We should. We will.
If you wanna shill your content, feel free to before we go.
Yeah, just check me out here on YouTube, Jason Fuhrman, as well as on Amazon because I write books too. That's pretty much me.
Yeah. You have any other like social media or anything like that?
No, I have an Instagram, but I'm not very active there. I
You
got
have, like,
banned from
Patreon
Twitter.
or something?
No Patreon yet. Nothing like that. Yeah, keeping it simple.
All right. You did have a Twitter, but for some reason
I
you
got
got
banned.
like you got like blocked for some reason.
Yeah, I got hacked. My account got hacked, and they haven't reinstated it, so I think it's probably gone for good.
Ouch.
It's okay. Twitter's
Yeah.
a gross place. I'm kind of glad.
Well, yeah. Should be up by Saturday, and then Sunday will be my 50th episode. So yeah, this will be fun. Thank you all for watching. Until next time.